2019 is quickly wrapping up, and it's been a pretty dominant year for the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch once again saw another successful year with both hardware sales, software releases from third-party games, first-party games, to indie-party games. There was definitely a lot of things released on the Nintendo Switch, and really just something for everyone this year. So in today's video, I sort of want to do a little recap of 2019 and show why Nintendo managed to dominate the home console landscape in the year of 2019. Then towards the end of the video, I want to talk about some of my concerns of 2019 and then look at the future with 2020, because originally we did a video talking about the future of the Nintendo Switch in 2020, but a lot of things have happened since then that I definitely want to touch on. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the Nintendo Switch in 2019 and what's up with 2020. So to say that the Nintendo Switch dominated when it came to console sales in 2019 is clearly just a fact at this point in time. If you look at every NPD for 2019, the #1 selling system in the United States month after month after month was of course the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch actually managed to outsell the Xbox One worldwide this year as well, which is another huge accomplishment considering that the Xbox One released much earlier than the Nintendo Switch did, nearly 3.5 years before the Switch released. So there was a lot of ground for the Nintendo Switch to make up, but they managed to eclipse the Xbox One total sales in just a fraction of the time, and that's really a testament to just the software that the system has been receiving over the years. The Nintendo Switch of course got a big boost with a revision of the system, the Nintendo Switch Lite. The Nintendo Switch Lite is a very attractive option for a lot of people out there. Some people don't necessarily care about the home console aspect of the Nintendo Switch, they just want to play their Nintendo games portably, and the Nintendo Switch Lite offered a budget-friendly price point of just $199.99. Now of course we haven't gotten a whole hell of a lot of statistics because this is a newer release for Nintendo, but everything is pointing to massive success with this, especially in places like Japan and the US. They're just seeing incredible sales for the Nintendo Switch Lite, and the Nintendo Switch Lite is actually selling better in the United States than it is in Japan, which is definitely a big interesting shift in just how the video game landscape is looking. So when it comes to system sales, you can't say that Nintendo did not dominate 2019 because the statistics show that they clearly did. Now, why did Nintendo manage to dominate 2019 though? When you look at their first-party software lineup, I would say it was very good. I don't think it was necessarily as good as 2017 was, or maybe even 2018, but we got a lot of quality titles from Nintendo this year, maybe some that you have forgotten about because obviously 12 months is a long time. So I briefly want to highlight some of the first-party, the third-party, and the indie titles that I definitely feel helped the Nintendo Switch achieve this massive success in 2019. So when we're talking about first-party titles, my game of the year that came to us from Nintendo on the Nintendo Switch was Luigi's Mansion 3. I think this game is just absolutely stellar. I loved this game so much. Yes, there was one very annoying boss fight that, still bothers me to this day, but just the whole concept of the game, the whole exploration, how creative the game was, the beautiful level designs as well. This game definitely stood out as one of the premier titles of 2019, not just on the Nintendo Switch, but on all systems in general, I feel. Just a fantastic top-notch game that I feel like some people underrated a bit when it comes to their review process of Luigi's Mansion 3. Had an absolute blast with the game. The online is fun as well. Just a lot of replay value in this game as well. Of course, we got some staple franchises. We got a new Super Mario Maker game with Super Mario Maker 2 that really sort of expanded on the formula and of course included some online aspects. Nintendo has been a bit slow providing updates for Super Mario Maker 2, especially when you compare it to the original Super Mario Maker on the Nintendo Wii U, but they've definitely done a much better job in the past few months of getting more updates. We also saw a new Fire Emblem game with Fire Emblem Three Houses that was very highly reviewed and very well received. We of course got Pokemon Sword and Shield that was, caught up in a little bit of controversy, but still a very good addition to the Pokemon franchise. And we actually got a Zelda game as well with The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Now, I thought Link's Awakening was a pretty solid game. I don't necessarily think it was a 9 or a 10. I would probably put it around an 8 or so, but definitely a great journey, definitely a great adventure, and a lot of fun to be had within that game. We also saw Nintendo working with other companies, and we got two very interesting titles that I feel were very, very well done. The first of those being Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Now, I was a big fan of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games that were on the PS2 and the Wii and the Xbox. So when Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 was announced, I was really looking forward to this game. I ended up binging the single-player campaign of that game literally in one sitting because I enjoyed it so much. Now, they've been adding some subsequent DLC to that game, but it's really just more so cosmetic stuff when it comes to different characters and things like that. Yes, they are adding in new characters, but I would have loved to have seen some actual story stuff that ties into the main single player of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, but it was just a very well done game. And of course, the other game was a combination of Nintendo and Platinum Games with Astral Chain, a really fun sort of cyberpunkish cop game with a lot of crazy battles and a lot of crazy elements that really make this game stand out. I think from a visual standpoint, it's arguably one of the best looking Nintendo Switch games. It runs very smoothly as well, has a fantastic soundtrack, a lot of collectibles, a lot of unlockables to see in that game. Of course, there's multiple difficulty settings as well if you're getting more comfortable. And of course, just having these wide range of attacks really made this game stand out. So while there might not have been a built from the ground up brand new Zelda game, of course, Link's Awakening was a remake. There wasn't a brand new Mario game. There wasn't a brand new Metroid game. I think the accumulation of all these titles really led for a very solid and strong year for the Nintendo Switch when it came to first-party titles. Moving right along, we saw a lot of third-party games come to the Nintendo Switch. When you look at the Nintendo Wii U versus the Nintendo Switch, it's like night and day with third-party support. And I just want to highlight some of the games that I really enjoyed playing this year on my Nintendo Switch that were from third-party companies. The first game I want to talk about is The Witcher 3. Of course, the impossible port. There's no way The Witcher 3 could come to the Nintendo Switch, but they managed to cram it on there. Yes, it might not look as good as the PS4 or the Xbox One version of the game, especially in docked mode, but I still think this is one of the most high quality handheld experiences that you can get on the Nintendo Switch. Hundreds of hours can be sunk into this game. There's so many things to do, so many things to find in this game. Just an absolutely fantastic game. We of course got a definitive edition of Dragon Quest XI on the Nintendo Switch, another fantastic RPG that really bolsters the Nintendo Switch lineup. We saw a Microsoft first party game come to the Nintendo Switch with Cuphead. I think that was a huge surprise for a lot of people, and the version of Cuphead on the Nintendo Switch was just as good as the Xbox One version of the game. We of course had Dragon Quest Builders 2, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, NBA 2K20, which, yes, I get it, the my player, the my team stuff, it sucks, but when you play the actual game of basketball, this is a beautiful game. This is a very highly polished game in terms of graphics and in terms of gameplay mechanics. I think they did a fantastic job with this version of the game, especially when you compare it to the PS4 and the Xbox One versions of the game, considering that the Nintendo Switch is much weaker hardware. You also had some fun games like Tetris 99, a little surprise game for Nintendo Switch Online owners. You had multiplayer-based games like Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight, and we all know Friday the 13th is the better game. We of course had a big blockbuster fighting game with Mortal Kombat 11. Yeah, the crypt stuff was very ugly in this game, but the actual fighting in the game and the actual in-game graphics, I think they did a really good job on it. There were subsequent updates to the graphics as well to sort of improve and polish them. Just amazing to see this high-caliber fighting game that of course was designed with the PS4 and Xbox in mind, brought over to the Nintendo Switch, and such a quality version of it. And then of course we had the big surprise, one of the things that nobody ever thought would be happening, and that is Final Fantasy VII on the Nintendo Switch. Like, that's just absolutely amazing how that story has come full circle. Of course, Squaresoft and Nintendo had a falling out during the N64 era. Final Fantasy VII was released on the PlayStation 1, and the rest is history when it comes to that. But just to see everything come full circle was just an absolutely amazing thing. Now, when it comes to third-party developers, though, I want to put a little spotlight on one company. Now, if you've been watching some of my recent videos, I have done this little spotlight before, but I have a feeling this video will probably get some new eyes on it, and that company is Feral Interactive. Feral Interactive has released two games very recently for the Nintendo Switch, a port of Grid, which is a simulation-based racing game, and a port of Alien Isolation, which was a stealth horror game set in the Alien universe. And both of these ports are absolutely amazing ports. I'm talking top-notch stuff here that you would expect from companies like Panic Button and Virtuos, but not necessarily Feral Interactive. Feral Interactive is arguably one of the best port developers on the Nintendo Switch, and they definitely needed a lot of respect. Digital Foundry actually said that the version of Alien Isolation on the Nintendo Switch at times looks better than the PS4 version. Like what? That's absolutely crazy. So these two ports were absolutely superbly well done, and they definitely deserve some more credit when it comes to third-party developers. Now, on the indie side of things, of course, there's 100 billion indie games that released on the Nintendo Switch this year, but there are a few that I just want to very briefly highlight that I think managed to stick out. Of course, Cadence of Hyrule was a very big deal because this was Nintendo allowing an indie developer to take the Legend of Zelda franchise and do something completely different with it. Now, personally, the gameplay style never really sort of stuck with me. I ended up beating the game. Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the visuals. I enjoyed the music. The gameplay wasn't really for me, but as someone who loves video games, I could definitely appreciate this game and understand why people would love it. Of course, Ori and the Blind Forest came to the Nintendo Switch, and once again, this is the definitive version of Ori and the Blind Forest because it has better visuals than the Xbox One version. Ori himself moves at 60 frames per second, where originally he was designed with 30 frames per second on the Xbox One. We had some standout titles like Kazana Zero, we had Sayonara Wild Hearts. I mean, just so many awesome indie games. Definitely not enough time to talk about all of them, but we have covered some of them in previous eShop related videos, so make sure you guys go check those out. So obviously there were a lot of highlights for the Nintendo Switch in 2019. You had the Nintendo Switch outselling the PS4 and Xbox One month after month after month. You had the introduction of the Nintendo Switch Lite, which really bolstered in and brought in new people into the Nintendo Switch family. You had great first-party games, you had great third-party games, you had great indie games. So what were some of the lowlights of 2019 for the Nintendo Switch? One of my lowlights with the Nintendo Switch in 2019 is kind of a twofold thing. I'm gonna say that a game like New Super Mario Bros. U was not necessarily needed at a $60 price point. Yes, the game sold very well. I was eating my crow on that, you know, okay, people obviously wanted this game, but I still feel like it should have been a smaller budget title. Now, why did New Super Mario Bros. U even come to the Nintendo Switch? That's one of my problems with the Nintendo Switch in 2019, which is something that we actually saw in 2018 with the system as well, and that is the pacing of the first party and second party releases on the Nintendo Switch. For whatever reason, Nintendo just likes to ignore the first like 4 or 5 months of the year with just smaller titles, and then when summer comes they start dropping all these bombs, and then summer through the late fall is just filled with all these huge releases for the Nintendo Switch. But it still feels like the spring months are just sort of a doldrum. There's a lull in the release cycle for Nintendo, and I think that's sort of a problem. Now, yes, of course some of this is based on developmental time, and is the game actually ready to be released at this point in time, but you would think there would be someone at Nintendo who would step back and look at the situation like, hey, you know, we got a lot of games coming out in the summer and the fall and early winter, but there's not shit coming out in the spring. Should we do something about that? Nah, it'll be fine. Now, obviously, Nintendo is doing a little bit of a better job with this. Animal Crossing is coming out in March of 2020 for the Nintendo Switch, and of course, Tokyo Mirage Sessions #FE is also coming out in January for the Nintendo Switch. And I know it's Tokyo Mirage Sessions score FE or whatever, but I say hashtag because I'm on Twitter a lot, and you gotta use hashtags on Twitter. But really, when you look at this, it's kind of an interesting situation, though, because originally Animal Crossing was supposed to be a 2019 release. It wasn't supposed to be a March game. So if you take away that delay for Animal Crossing, what really was there for the first part of 2020? And really, that's a concern going into the 2020 with Nintendo Switch. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's doom and gloom. We know what the PS5 is bringing to the table. We've actually seen a PS5 game, Godfall, which was unveiled at the Game Awards 2019. We now know about the Xbox Series X, which has 12 teraflops. It has a new Hellblade game that just looks absolutely amazing. So the competition is definitely starting to ramp up right now. The PS4 and the Xbox One are on their way out the door, and come holiday 2020, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are going to be available on the market. So where does that position the Nintendo Switch? With this large leap in graphical quality that a lot of people are expecting with these higher spec machines, what will that say for third-party games on the Nintendo Switch? Is it doom and gloom for the Nintendo Switch in 2020? I definitely don't think so, but I definitely think Nintendo needs to start looking at what to do with the Nintendo Switch in order to keep this momentum going. And I feel like an important part of that momentum is the first half of 2020. When you look at the PlayStation 4, there's a lot of big games coming to the PlayStation 4 and even the Xbox One in terms of third-party releases. Of course, we were introduced to Resident Evil 3 that is coming out. Final Fantasy 7 is also coming out. Last of Us 2 is coming out on the PlayStation 4. Like, there's a bunch of titles coming here. Now, yes, that's pretty much just fan service for owners of the PS4 and the Xbox One, but you need to remain competitive, and that's the main thing I want to see Nintendo do. The Nintendo Nintendo definitely did not show up at the Game Awards 2019, but at the end of the day, I guess that's okay. As long as they have a strong Nintendo Direct in January, all of that will be forgiven. So those are my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch in 2019 and looking forward to the future of the Nintendo Switch in 2020. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think of all of this. Did you enjoy the system this year? What were some of the standout titles, and what do you foresee the future of the system being with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X looming on the horizon? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Before I close though, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Derek real quick. He makes these really cool shadow box things, and I've known Derek for a couple years now. Very cool guy. You know, we've actually done some stuff before. I've donated some stuff to him on his Twitch channel so that he could do giveaways and stuff like that during Extra Life. But he's been making these boxes, and I just think they're absolutely awesome. He actually sent me 3 of them. There's a Street Fighter one as well, but I have that up in the office. But like, this one just looks so freaking cool. Like, I just absolutely love these. He has a Facebook page. I'll put a link to it in the description box down below. Be sure to join that Facebook page if you're interested. He does make and sell these, so if you want to pick some up, that's totally cool. So shout out to Derek. Thank you for sending me these, buddy. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.